All right, today we're ready to work on number 8's monomial and polynomial notes, multiplying binomials. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is create a box, and our box is going to be, our rows are going to be our first set of parentheses. And our columns are going to be the second set of parentheses. Okay, and I'm going to explain that a little bit more in a minute. If you have like x plus y or something that is squared, what that really means is you're going to have x plus y and then another x plus y. So you're going to have the same thing and it's going to be repeated twice. Okay. Our step 2 is going to be to multiply the terms into the box. And then step 3 is going to be combine like terms. And then step 4 is going to be write in standard form. Okay, so let's try this for number 1. Okay, so we need to make rows and columns. When I look, I have 2 pieces in this first part, and I have 2 pieces in this second part. So I need a 2 by 2 box. So I'm going to start by making a 2 by 2 box. Okay, there is my 2 by 2 box. And now I'm going to take what's in on this, this x, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. This x minus, that's not what I wanted to do either. There we go, this one right here. This x, it was minus 1, x minus 1, and I'm going to put that right here. So I'm going to say x, and then minus 1, because it's minus 1, we're going to use that like a negative in front of that 1. And then I'm going to take the blue part, and I'm going to put that across the top in 2 different pieces. So I'm going to say x, and then minus 4. Okay, and now we're going to multiply just like we multiplied before. If there's no coefficient, I'm going to add the coefficient. And if there's no power, I'm going to add the power. So I'm going to do this for both of those. Okay, now we're going to distribute just like we did before, not distribute, sorry. We're going to multiply just like we did before. We're going to multiply our big numbers and add our little numbers. Okay, so if I'm looking at, let's say this box right here, I'm going to multiply this 1x squared, or 1x to the first, and this 1x to the first. So my big numbers, 1 times 1 is 1. And then I'm going to count up my x's. I have x to the first and x to the first. That's going to give me x to the second. Now, if I want to be in this box right here, I'm going to take what's on the outside of that and what's at the very top of that, and I'm going to multiply those. Okay, so this time I have a negative 1 times a 1. So I'm going to say negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. And then if I have any x's, I'm going to represent those too. So at the very top, you had that x to the first. You don't have any by that negative 1, so that's just going to stay an x. Okay, the next one that I'm going to do, and these can be done in any order. I'm just choosing to do them in the order that I'm doing. So if I want to fill in this box right here, I'm going to go up straight up at the top and straight to the left side. Okay, so those are going to meet at that box. I'm going to take my big numbers. So I have a big number, negative 4, and a big number 1. I'm going to multiply those. So negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. And then I have to look, do any of them have x's? Yeah, the 1 had the x with it, so I'm just going to show that x right here. And then finally, I'm going to do my last box that's right here. And for there, I'm going to use this very top number, so that negative 4, and the number on the very left. So negative 4 times negative 1, that's going to give me a positive 4. So I'm going to go and put my positive 4 in there. Okay, so we did the multiplying, and then the next step says we need to combine like terms. So anything that has the same power on it is a like term. So when I look at this, these both have an x on them. Okay, because they have an x, we can combine those. Okay, but before we do that, we want to write it in standard form. Standard form is the highest power first. So I'm going to look at all 4 of my boxes. I'm going to start with my power, that's the highest. So my 1x squared is the highest. So I'm going to start with 1x squared. I can combine my negative 1x and my negative 4x. And I could write those out. And I'm going to do that this time, but probably going forward, we really won't do that very often. So I'm going to say negative 1x minus 4x. And then lastly, we're going to put our constant, which is plus 4. Okay. If you notice, these two pieces can be combined. So my negative 1x and my negative 4x, those can be combined. So my 1x squared is going to stay the same. So I'm going to keep that 1x squared. My negative 1x and my negative 4 is going to give me a negative 5x. And then I'm going to end with that positive 4. Okay, let's try number 2. I have 2 pieces by 2 pieces. So I'm going to make my 2 by 2 box again. So I'm going to go 2 across and 2 down. Actually, I'm going to switch this the other way. Will that flip with you? Never mind. I was going to try to flip my iPad because sometimes if I have the microphone down at the bottom, then it gets a little scratchy for you. So sorry if it's a little scratchy today. I'm going to take this first set. I'm going to put it down the side here. And then I'm going to take the second set and I'm going to put it above on the top there. Okay, so my first one, I have x. And I have a positive 2. I don't have to say plus 2. If I just write that 2, I know it's positive. My second set is going to be an x and a negative 5. I'm going to go ahead and put any coefficients in and any powers in. And now I can go ahead and do my multiplying. So the first box I want is this box right here. And to get that box, I'm going to go right above it and right beside it. Okay, so I'm going to take my big numbers. 1 times 1 is 1. I have x to the first and x to the first. That's going to give me x squared. Okay, my next one, I'm going to go ahead and do this bottom box right here. So this bottom box, I'm going all the way to the top, which is that 1x, and all the way on that left side, which is the 2. So 2 and 1 are my big numbers. So 2 times 1 is 2. And then I have x to the first. So that's just going to stay x to the first because I only have one of those. My next box I want is this one right here. So I'm going to go straight above it and then all the way to the left. Okay, my 1 and my 5 are both big numbers. So 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. And then I have only one x, so I'm going to keep that x. It's x to the first. Remember, you can put that little 1 on top, but you don't have to. And finally, I want this box right here. So I'm going to go all the way to the top, and I'm going to go all the way on the left side. I have a positive 2 and a negative 5. That's going to give me a negative 10. Okay, I'm going to start with my highest power first. My highest power is 1x squared. Okay, then I have a positive 2x and a negative 5x. This time I'm not putting those little ones in there. I'm just going to leave them as x's. And then minus 10. Okay, when we look, we can combine these two things because they both have an x on them. So I'm going to keep my 1x squared as 1x squared. If I have a positive 2 and I subtract 5, that's going to give me a negative 3x and then minus 10. And then you're done with number 2. Let's try number 3. Okay, again, I have 2, 2, and 2. So I'm going to do a 2 by 2 box. And you actually can put these on any side you want. I tend to always put that first one going down the side here. And I tend to put the second one going across the top. But you could flip-flop those. It wouldn't really matter. Hold on a second. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Okay, I'm trying a new screen recording so I can scroll in on the screen, but I can't pause it. Otherwise, or I can't stop recording it or pause it. Otherwise, I have to start all over, and I don't want to do that. So, sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put my 3x squared and my positive 1. And then I'm going to put my 2x and my negative 1. Okay, so I'm going to start with this right here, and I'm going to go straight above and to the left. So my big numbers I'm going to multiply. 3 times 2 is 6. And then I have x. I have x squared and then x to the first. There's no power there, but I can put it up there. So that's going to give me x to the third. Okay, the next one that I'm going to do, and I can do these in any order. It does not matter. I just tend to go in this order. I'm going to go in this box, so I want to go straight up what's on top outside the box and on the left outside the box. So 2 times 1 is 2. I only have just that 1x, so I'm going to show that 1x. Okay, now I want this box right here. So I'm going to go straight up outside the box and all the way to the left outside the box. My big numbers are 3 and negative 1. That's going to give me a negative 3. I have an x squared on the outside of the left, and I don't have anything with my negative 1, so that's just going to stay an x squared. And then finally, I want this one right here, which I'm going to go all the way to the top outside of the box and all the way to the left outside of the box. I have a negative 1 and a positive 1. That's going to stay a negative 1. Okay, we're going to do this a little bit faster. Instead of writing them all out and then combining, I can just look and, except not in this case. I was going to show you that those can just be combined because they have the same power. They usually almost always will have the same power right there, but these ones don't, so we cannot combine them. So now I'm just going to write them from my highest power, which is my 6x to the third. My next highest power would be a negative 3x squared. My next highest power would be a positive 2x. And finally, I'm going to end with a negative 1. Okay, let's just do one more box. Okay, so in our notes, we said if we have something that is squared, that doesn't mean that I'm going to say x squared minus 1 squared. That's not what I'm asking it to do. What it's asking you to do is you really have it 2 times. So you have x minus 1, and then you also have another x. Whoops, that's not minus. Minus 1. Okay, so now I have a 2 by 2, so I'm going to draw that box. I'm going to go 2 by 2. Draw my line in the middle. Down there. Okay, this is going to be my first one going right here. This is going to be my second one going right here. Okay, so I have x minus 1, and I have x minus 1. Remember, if they're negatives, you have to show the negative, but you don't have to show the positive. Okay, I'm going to start in this box, go straight up and straight over. I don't have coefficients in front, so I know they're 1s, and I don't have powers, I know they're 1s. So 1 times 1 is 1. X to the first and x to the first is x squared. I'm going to go down a box. I'm going right here, so I'm going straight up from that box outside and then all the way to the left. And negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. I have just that 1x. Now I want this green box right there going straight up outside the box and straight left outside the box. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1, and I had 1x. And then finally, I have this one right here. Okay, so I'm going to go straight up and all the way to the left. So a negative 1 times a negative 1 is going to give you a positive 1. So I'm going to put a positive 1. Now, as I was saying when we did our last box, almost always these two will have the same power on them and you can combine them. Not always, obviously. We just learned that in problem number 3. But this time we can combine those. Instead of writing them all out in kind of one long number sentence, I'm just going to do some of this in my head. So I have 1x squared. And then I'm going to combine negative 1x and negative 1x Negative 1 minus 1 is going to give me a negative 2. And remember, when you add and subtract, your power stays the same. So that's just going to be an x right there. And then I'm going to end with that 1 in the yellow square, which is positive. So I'm going to say plus 1. Okay, let's move to the back. I'm going to show you another way. So the box way, like we just did, is one way that you can do that. This is called the box method. There's another method called double distribution. So I'm going to show you. You can, on your homework today, you can choose any way. I think on your homework, can you choose any way? Let me just check that. Yes, you get to choose how you want to decide how to solve these. So you can do the box way if you really like that way, but I'm going to show you another way right now. This is called double distribution. So the first thing you're going to do is distribute. Oops, that's really thick. The first term into each of the terms in the second parentheses. Okay? And then you're going to repeat with each term in the first set of parentheses. So I'm going to show you what that means. Okay? So we have that let me scroll in a little bit. We have 3x plus 1. That's my first part of this problem. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this 3x plus 1, and this 3x, we're going to distribute it to this x. And we're going to take that 3x and we're going to distribute it to that negative 2. Okay? So if I have 3x and I multiply it by x, remember out front is really a 1 and a power of 1. So I'm going to take 3 times 1 and I get 3. And then I have x times x and I get x squared. Okay? So we did the first part. Now, our second thing says we're going to repeat with each term in the first parenthesis. So we did it with our 3, but we also have that 1 in that first set of parentheses. So now we want to distribute this 1 to both parts. Oops, except I never finished. Okay, I'm going to back up a little bit. You did 3x times 1x, and you got that. We also have 3x times negative 2. So I'm going to take my big numbers, 3 times negative 2, and I'm going to get a negative 6, and those still have an x. So I'm just going to show that x. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing with the green lines I just made. So first, I'm going to take the big number times the big number. 1 times 1 is 1. They're positive, so I'm going to say plus 1, and you have 1x. And now I'm going to take that 1 times that negative 2, and that's going to give me a negative 2. Okay, I'm going to look and see, do I have any terms that I can combine or any x's with the same power? I sure do. They're right here. So I'm going to go ahead and write that. I have 3x squared. I'm going to start with, that's my highest power. I have negative 6 plus 1. That's going to give me a negative 5x. And then I'm just going to end with negative 2. And then you're done. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, we're going to take each part of the first set of parentheses and distribute it in separate pieces, okay? The first time, I'm going to distribute this first thing to both parts of that second set of parentheses. So I'm going to distribute that x squared to my 3x, and I'm going to distribute that x squared to my 5, okay? So if I take x squared and I distribute it to 3x, that's going to be 3x to the third. And I got third because I had 2 on that first one and 1 on the second. Now I'm going to take this x squared again, and now I want to distribute it to this 5. So x squared times 5, if I take my coefficient out front, which really is a 1, if I take 5 times 1, I'm going to get a positive 5, and then I still have that x squared. Okay, now, excuse me, now I want to distribute this 3 to both pieces as well. So I'm going to take this 3 and I want to distribute it to that 3x. And then I'm going to take this 3 and I want to distribute it to the 5. Okay, so let's do our 3 times the 3x first. So I'm going to take this 3 times that. 3 times 3 is 9. And then I get a x. So plus 9, and I have that x. Okay. And the last thing I'm going to do is taking this 3 and multiplying it with that 5. 3 times 5 is 15. So I'm going to say plus 15. Now I'm going to look through, are there any terms that I can combine because they have the same power? I went from highest power, so 3x to the third, all the way down to my constant, and none of my powers are the same, so I know that that's just the answer. I'm just done with that one. Okay, let's try number 7. We're going to use the same double distribution with number 7. Okay, number 7, I have x plus 6, and it's squared. So what that means is I have x plus 6, and then I have x plus 6 again. Okay, now we're going to use that double distribution again. So I'm going to take this x times that x, and I'm going to take this x times that 6. So if I take x times x, that's going to give me x squared. Now I want to take this x. Oops, that's not what I want to do. You know that's an x, so I'm just going to go over it right here. Oh, I'll erase that. That looks silly. There we go. Now I got it. So there was our first one. We did x times x, and we got that x squared. Now I'm going to take this x again and multiply it by this 6. So if I take x times 6, in front of my x is the coefficient 1. That's going to give me 1 times 6 is 6. And I still have that x, so I'm going to show that x. Okay. Now I'm going to distribute my 6 to both pieces. So I want 6 times x, and I want 6 times 6. Okay, so if I look at that, if I take this 6 times this x, that's going to give me a 6x, and they're positive, so I'm going to say plus 6x. And then I'm going to take this 6 and multiply it by this 6. 6 times 6 is 36, so I'm going to say plus 36. Okay, I started with my highest power, my x squared, so I'm done there. I'm already in descending order. And now I'm going to look. I have a positive 6x and another positive 6x. So 6 plus 6 is 12. So I'm going to say x squared plus 12x plus 36. And then we're just done with number 7. Okay, let's look at our last one, number 8. Okay, I have 2 pieces. I'm going to use double distribution. So the first thing I'm going to do is my first to both of my second. So if I look at that, I'm going to take this 2x and multiply it by x. That's going to give me a 2x squared. Then I'm going to take this 2x and multiply it by that negative 3. 2 times negative 3 is going to give me a negative 6. And they both, or only one of them has an x, so I'm going to show an x. Okay, now I'm going to do the second part of that first set of parentheses. And I'm going to take this 1 times the x, and then 1 times negative 3. Okay, so if I did 1 times x, I'm going to get 1x. They're all positive, so I'm going to say plus 1x. And then if I take the 1 times that negative 3, 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. So I'm going to just plop that negative 3 on the end there. Okay, I'm going to look. Can I combine any of my powers? Yes, these two both have the power of 1. I shouldn't say combine my powers, but combine my coefficients because the powers are the same. I'm going to start with my 2x squared. Negative 6 plus 1 is going to give me a negative 5x, and then I just have that minus 3 on the end. And I went from highest power down to my constant, so I know I'm in standard form. All right, you have what you need to finish your assignment for number 8.